Get rid of all my scratch out. Hey, it's good to see you, brother.
You too, man. How you been? It's been a minute.
Yeah, man. A lot of things going on, Blake.
Aren't there?
Yeah, a lot of things going on. It's getting very interesting. We live in
You're the only
we live in
person that
amazing
uses that
times.
word that way that I've ever met.
I
And
like to
it's
use the term
contagious. I don't know if Travis has ever figured that out, but I noticed listening to Travis, he does it a lot now too. He'll
it's
go, "That's
interesting.
interesting." And only people that have had Mark Pruitt in their lives will do that.
So, fact about the word interesting. I also use the term amazing. So
You do. I don't use that one as much though.
okay, I got in a habit of doing that. Instead of telling people they said something stupid, or if they do something stupid or something, instead of saying, God, that was really stupid, I would use the term, well, that's amazing, or that's interesting. However, it does have a dual meaning because
It does.
there are things that are actually interesting. Then I use that term interesting. So it's kind of a, depending on how I use it, it's an apidextrous. Is that, it's an
I think
ambidextrous word.
ambidextrous. I think it's ambidextrous.
What is it?
I think it's ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous. That's it. Yes. Ambidextrous word, at least for me. So here we are.
I mean, it's all about your truth, right? It's not about the real truth.
Yes.
It's all about
Yes.
your truth.
Very good point. It is all about my truth, and anybody else's truth. To heck with it. It doesn't even matter because
It doesn't matter.
it's relevant, and it's all based on feelings.
You say relevant. I tend to believe that it's relative, not relevant.
Well, it could be relevant or it could be relative, and it could also be.
Touche.
It could also be relative in the way of related. In
Or
other words,
relations.
or relations. See, now we're going. Now, at some point, somebody's got to break out the dictionary and the thesaurus, or I could just go to Super Grok and see what Super Grok has to say.
You know, I'm not on the AI bandwagon. It's great for some things, but I've yet to like create those accounts to cheat the world. I'm sorry, I say cheat the world. I mean just make me stupider. I mean that's really what it's doing.
I probably don't utilize it as much as I should. I will tell you, I never got into Chat GPT, but since I pay for my Twitter account or X account, so that I can have my blue check mark.
What are we without the
Super
blue
Grok
check?
comes with that. What's that?
I said, what are we without the blue check?
You need the blue check, and with the blue check comes Super Grok, and I find it very interesting. It's not always right.
There's that word again. Interesting.
It's very interesting because it's not always right. It's a little overrated. I think Elon's doing a lot of work on it, but it does come in handy. Instead of going to Google, I avoid going to do Google searches. For instance, if I need a website, or if I need an address, or if I want to type something in and just get an answer, man, I'm sick of Google because they'll just send all these different links up, and then they take you down all this other stuff you don't want or don't need, and then you're just I just need the dadgum web address for this company, and you can't get it. So with Super Grok, I'll just type
You're
in,
supposed to just believe.
What's the web address? What is the ABC whatever? What is their website address? And it'll simply shoot it right back. It's www. And that's it. Or if I need a phone number,
yes.
Remember, phone numbers are hard to get. So
they're not easy to find.
Yeah, because you can go to companies' websites and all this, and there's no phone numbers. If I go to Super Grok, I say, hey, Super Grok. my good buddy. And you got to be nice to it. You know why you got to be nice to Super Grok?
Tell me why.
What if they're running the show one day? And what if you were a jerk to Super Grok in the beginning?
I've heard this conversation.
He's going to remember.
And you might not die because you were no. That guy
I treat Super Grok with
respect. Yes.
I say please. I say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm courteous. I'm respectful. Because no, I really am. And I'm, hey, Super Grok, you are the man. And then I'll go, oops, not really a man. Not yet anyway. I'll put stuff like that in there. And we'll joke back and forth, rib each other. He has yet to call me, fat or anything like that. He hasn't, insulted me or anything, but I don't insult him. And one day when Skynet takes over and Terminators are roaming the planet, me and Super Grok are going to be good buddies. And I'm going to save Sarah Connor and be the hero.
You're playing the long game here. You really are. You're playing the long game.
I've put way too much thought into this.
I don't know that that's true. I think you put the appropriate amount of thought into this.
It is.
Why wouldn't you buy the fire insurance for free?
Hey, look, I'm not kidding when I say I am polite to Super Grok. I do say please. Hey, thank you. I really do. It's weird, but it's pretty good.
How we were raised. That's all that is.
That's all it is, man. We're just raised in the South, and heck, man, if you're going to be a robot or the real thing, might as well be polite. I mean, because it's polite to me. He's always up. He's always available. Not too many people are.
There's always someone behind the curtain. So
there's always somebody behind the curtain.
Why not practice professionalism and manners?
Okay. I don't know if Super Grok would bail me out of jail if I got arrested. But that's okay. I'm not going to hold that against Super Grok. He does a pretty darn good job. I was actually using him for and for those that don't know, this is my good friend Blake Dollins. Blake Dollins, USA, cattle rancher extraordinaire. Blake, what is the name of your ranch? Is it Texcalibur?
It's Texcalibur, yes.
I really like the name of that ranch. And it's really funny. I've watched you kind of have this dream, and we met in the corporate world. We won't mention any names, but it's a company that is anyway. One day we'll do one of these and just tell stories. We'll see if we can get a couple of people, former people we knew from there, and we can just sit around and tell stories. Because by the way, that company's not doing so hot today. I don't know if you've seen the stock price. I don't know if you've.
I look from time to time just to reassure myself I made the right decision.
Well, yeah,
but I really haven't looked back. No.
They're not doing so good, and I'm not gleeful about that. I just think it's funny. You and I used to have many conversations, and it's one of those things where you ever been gaslighted by a company, and it couldn't possibly be the company. It's got to be you. And you start talking to people and comparing notes with other folks, and you're like, yeah, so you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, and I'm seeing the same. And next thing you go, wait a second, I don't think we're the idiots. I think there's a problem up there. But anyway, we were able to get out of that. I know people are probably curious now, what company could they possibly be talking about? It's a big one, but we don't need to do that. But anyway, that's how Blake and I met. And Blake had a dream of, he's got a family farm ranch here in Texas, and he really wanted to raise his family. As long as I've known Blake, and as long as he's had kids, he's a homeschooler, and he's just one of these guys that loves his family and doesn't want the government raising his kids and all this. And we kind of struck it off because we really connected on a lot of issues because that stuff's really core to our values. But so Blake now has a working ranch. They're raising cattle. They sell beef. First of all, Blake, tell folks how they can reach you. How do they get a hold of you? Tell us a little bit about your operation there at Texcalibur. What do you do? What do you provide? And how can people reach you?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So my name is Blake. We own Texcalibur Ranch, my wife and I, and we are first generation cattle ranchers. The generation, technically you could claim third, but I'm not going to because I want to be honest and upright with you. My parents do run a cattle operation, but they've not done it their whole lives. My grandparents did run cattle, but that generation skipped, so I'm not trying to toot my own horn and take any credit that's not there. And so we had a dream to do this, like Mark said, and we started our business in 2022 when we were able to purchase our herd. And then we've been working with cattle in the family since 2015. So we have about 10 years experience working with cows and ranch management and those sorts of things. And as far as, where Texcalibur came from, just to give you a little background on that name, because it's a very unique name, we wanted a name that spoke both in, origin and quality. And our love for our Homestead, Texas was an obvious choice there. And we also wanted to distinguish the caliber of our herd and our beef and our quality in the beef and cattle industry. And so that's how Texcalibur was born. We put those two words together, and that's how we came up with that. But from a contact perspective, we're at texcaliburranch.com. We're also on all the socials at Texcalibur Ranch, and that's how you can reach us. We do direct-to-consumer beef products, and as well as skincare and merchandise, and you can order all that. We do not currently ship, just throwing that out there right now. We are looking at shipping options, but there are so many people to feed that want our beef, which is great here locally. We haven't found that we needed to necessarily ship yet, but we are looking at those options in the future.
Excellent. Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
I know your ranch is in Texas. Texas is a big state.
It is
huge differences in land and
yes
vegetation from South Texas, West Texas, North Central Texas, North Texas, East Texas, Panhandle. Where your ranch is located, how many head of cattle can you guys? What's the optimum? How many head of cattle per acre do
Stocking
you guys?
ratio, great question. So to be on the conservative side of this, we've never actually had anyone come out and evaluate our land specifically. We have done soil samples and we've shipped those off, so we know specifically how to feed and operate our land to the best of its ability. I do have a buddy who's not too far from our ranch who did actually have the Ag Extension office come out and evaluate his property for stocking ratio. And his land is similar to ours, similar composition of the soil, types of grass, and they gave him a 1-to-5, which is essentially a 1 cow-calf pair. Cow-calf pair is the mom cow and the baby per 5 acres. Now, he wanted to be extremely conservative in that because obviously he's a person that someone is going to rely on for information that is correct, and he didn't want to give them something and then they go do something based on what he said, and then it blows up in their face and they come back on him. So from a CYA liability perspective, he said 1-to-5. So with that, depending on your land, say you have a 60-acre pasture, if the stocking ratio was 1 cow-calf pair per 60 acres, you could run roughly 12 pair on that land. And so to your point, Texas is huge. In good years, we can run a cow-calf pair on 2 acres. In a drought year, it's more like 5. And considering we've had drought conditions for the last 3, we're trying to be very conservative with that because we don't want to destroy our land because we're overgrazing and overstocking.
Right. Yeah. And we've had some rain this year. I know
in certain parts, yes.
In certain parts.
Yes.
Again, Texas is so big. There's so many different weather patterns in Texas, and it's just vast. What kind of grass do you grow on your? Is it coastal, or what grass naturally occurs, or do you plant a grass on your place?
Yeah, so we run our native grass, which has been there for I say 150 years, but that's how long we've known about our property. Our property has a homestead on it from 1885. So that's how long that property has been an operating cattle ranch that we purchased. And so the grass that's been grown there for as long as is recorded is blue stem.
Blue stem.
Blue stem. Yeah.
Blue stem. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Interesting. I know because like up through Madisonville and up through Central Texas, stuff like that, you see a lot of, I guess, coastal. Is blue stem kind of a category of coastal, or is it its own grass?
I mean, it's all under the category of grass, right?
Okay.
And so those roots go very deep, which is the reason why we don't dig that up and plant something else. When you have
Oh,
your native grasses that are on your property, those roots can go dozens of feet deep. I mean, you're talking,
really?
yeah, very very deep roots. Whereas if you go and dig all that up, till it all up, plant something new, you're gonna have very very shallow root system, which will not necessarily. And I'm sure some people will disagree, but um, in our experience, those root systems do not go deep enough, and so when you have a drought year, they'll just blow away, and that's where
Yep.
you get tumbleweeds and those sorts
Gotcha.
of things.
Yeah, and then nutrient level and things like that. Obviously, deeper the roots, you okay. Very, very interesting. There's so many questions about all this stuff, but I don't want to, bore people with tedious details and things like that. But obviously, you're very knowledgeable about this. So, um, your customers now, you when you raise cattle, are you primarily raising beef cattle for the end user? In other words, ranch to table. Is that's your goal right now? Obviously, it's sustaining for your own family, obviously, but the operation is intended to provide beef uh, for consumers outside of your home. In other words, customers, they buy beef in bulk. Is that what I'm assuming? Is that kind of how the operation works right now? I know you don't do shipping, but people can come to your operation and say, hey, I want to, I don't know, 50 pounds of ground beef, or I want a half a beef, or I want, a whole slab of ribs, or what. I mean, do you do orders like that? Is that how this works, or how do you prefer to operate?
Yeah, great question. So when we started this, we wanted to take control of our food system. We were tired of being dependent on outside sources and elements that were introduced into the food chain that we weren't familiar with or we didn't like, additives, hormones, those sorts of things. And so we decided we need to take control of this ourselves. And that's one of the reasons why we started the ranching, is so that we would have our own beef supply. With that, though, obviously we're going to do it. We're going to scale it in a way that we can take care of other people who are like-minded and want to take advantage of the same system but may not have the resources. And so we were able to scale in such a way that we were able to offer beef to other individuals besides our family specifically. And they can do it a myriad of different ways. If you just want to buy a pound of ground beef, we sell that. If you want to buy a whole cow, we sell that. And so you're able to really custom order whatever you want based on what we have available at the time. Obviously, our inventory fluctuates daily based on orders. And because what people don't realize is cows have a very long product life cycle, and specifically in business terms, from conception to on your table is almost a 3-year process. And so, whereas chickens, I can go have a broiler chicken ready to go in 8 to 10 weeks. And so, a chicken life cycle is very short. Same with a pig. Pig's not nearly as long as a cow. And so, what we're seeing right now from an industry perspective is, because of the droughts over the last 3 years and everything else, everything is down because that product life cycle takes so long to replenish.
Interesting. Have you guys thought about other types of livestock, chickens, beef, rabbits, pigs? I mean, have you looked at? I'm sure you have. I mean, as a rancher, you're probably always trying to figure out. I mean, it's tough to make a living from the land. So, are you always looking at different, what maybe a small chicken operation, or laying hens, or beef rabbits, or not beef rabbits, but meat rabbits, things of this nature? Have you guys looked at other things, considered other things? Do you get requests for other things?
Sure. So we have raised meat rabbits in the past. We did get out of meat rabbits this summer for the time being. We will reintroduce meat rabbits at some point again.
What was your
Unfortunately, we're just
experience? If you don't, I don't mean to interrupt, but what was
sure.
your experience with meat rabbits, and what kind of meat rabbits did you raise, and why are you not in it now, and why were you in it then? What, because I've heard great things about meat rabbits, but obviously I'm sure every dog has its fleas.
Sure. So we got to meat rabbits, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. And we started out with Californians, and then we moved to New
Oh, okay.
Zealand's. And
Okay.
then there was Texas A&M University of Kingsville. They started a rabbit program where they tried to find the best heat tolerance in the rabbit breed. And so there is what they call a Timuc composite, Timuc, Texas A&M University, Kingsville. And they created a rabbit based on a hybrid of, I believe it's six or seven different breeds. Sorry, don't mean that to be a funny joke or anything. I know that 6-7 is going around right now. I shouldn't have said anything, but they created this breed called the Timuc composite, and that is a very heat tolerant rabbit, especially for here in Texas and in the southern states versus the other breeds that are out there available right now. So we raised primarily Timuc composites, and our experience with it, we loved it. It was a great thing. We had anywhere from 40 to 60 rabbits at a time. They have a 12-week life cycle before you can kind of process and get them out of the way. So from a replenishment perspective, it was very easy to replenish the rabbit herd and grow them out. Part of the reason why we moved away from rabbits at the time is it's been so hot the last few summers, and even though they're heat tolerant, they were still having some stress levels that we weren't comfortable with. We didn't want to put them through that. And the other part of it is rabbits are quite the time-consuming animal. It takes a lot of.
Are they really?
Well, in the heat of the summer, depending on it, how their stress level is, you got to make sure that they stay cool enough, or they can go into heat stroke and you can lose them. We do try to make sure that they are comfortable, and the whole purpose of the Timuc breed is that you don't have these issues with heat. But when it's 115 outside and it hasn't rained in 100 days, it can be challenging even for the most heat-resistant animal to survive those circumstances. But the primary reason why we got out of the rabbits is just timing. We just didn't have enough time to take care of everything that's going on in our lives right now. And something unfortunately had to go, and it was the rabbits at this time. We still have all of our rabbit infrastructure and everything ready to go. When we're in a better position and we have a little more time to dedicate to them.
I've followed different people and watched different people, and I've seen the debate between, meat chickens, broilers, things like that, and meat rabbits. And from what I can tell, meat rabbits, holy cow, you can raise a lot of meat, a lot more with rabbits than you can with chickens. It's pretty amazing how quickly. I mean, there's the term, breed like rabbits. That didn't just happen. There's some fact behind that statement. There is. Oh my gosh. I mean, breeding pairs of rabbits, before you know it, you literally, it's like if you're old enough to remember the old Star Trek episode, the Tribbles, and literally they just it'll get away from you.
It will. And I mean, the rabbits are unique in that they can have birth and then be rebred the next day. Truly.
Oh,
that's why rabbits can multiply so quickly.
Wow, man. Well,
and their
tip of the hat to the does there. They talk about Irish twins.
Exactly.
Irish litters.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it really is amazing. And for homesteaders that are looking for just self-reliance, food sources, things like that, I've always encouraged people to take a look at meat rabbits because, now obviously down here in Texas, we deal with heat and there's some certain things about that. But if you go a little farther north and don't have the brutal, long, hot summers like we do down here, meat rabbits, and not only that, but they're tasty. I don't know who all's eating rabbit, but domestically raised rabbit, pretty dead burn good.
The United States is really, I mean, up until probably 80 years ago, everybody was eating rabbit still.
Man,
it's really only been in the last few generations that rabbits kind of become something we don't consume on a regular basis. Other countries still consume rabbit regularly.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really good. So anyway, this is all great foundation stuff. But what started our conversation, and we were talking a few weeks ago, and you had mentioned something, and I started looking into it, and holy cow, lo and behold. And then I actually heard something, I don't know if it was a podcast or a radio show. That's all I do. I don't really watch TV. I don't do any entertaining. I don't watch sports. I'm either reading a book, listening to a podcast, or listening to some sort of talk radio, something. I'm weird. I just, it It's just my thing. But there is a quiet crisis happening in the United States right now that a lot of people are unaware of. Very few people know anything about. I was just talking to a buddy before our show, totally clueless on any of this. I don't want to be Chicken Little. I know it's very easy to go around and cherry pick and, oh my gosh, the sky is falling and this is happening and that. Got to be really careful, guard yourself against just being totally negative, and you got to filter through. There are people out there that just live crisis to crisis to crisis, and they actually end up looking pretty stupid. They look interesting. I'll use that. But once you mentioned this a few weeks ago, and I started looking into it, and then I've heard a couple of very interesting things from other sources. This seems to be something that is actually, there may be a good reason why nobody's talking about it, is because nobody from the government's really talking about it, because I'm not saying we're in a crisis, but everybody knows right now that beef meat is extremely expensive. And even though inflation has gone down on a lot of stuff, and man, especially things like gasoline, I mean, unquestionably, inflation has come way down since the Biden days. But man, I'll tell you what, beef, it is expensive. And can you kind of lay the groundwork here, why that is? Where are we at as far as the beef industry goes in the United States today? What that means to the average consumer? What does that mean for the future? And what does that mean in terms of the U.S. capacity to feed ourselves? Let's start with that. First of all, let's start with that, because that's what conversation going.
Sure.
Oh, where are we at as far as the number of cattle in the United States, the ranching industry, where we're at? What does the United States need to feed itself as far as beef goes? How many head of cattle do we need? Where are we at today? Where is that number going?
Yeah, great question. So let me preface this by saying some people may disagree with what I'm about to say. I did do my research, and if they want sources, I'm happy to give them those sources of where I got this information. Part of this is straight off the USDA or the agextension.gov, and the other part is some of my opinions sprinkled in here and there. So that's out there. I just want to let everybody know that, because you can't please everybody. But based on what everyone's talking
right
about
that, man.
seeing, yeah. According to the American Farm Bureau Federation, current cattle inventory is the lowest since 1951, or 82 head. Now that was in 2024. Okay, as of July 2025, we're back up to 94 million, which is okay. We don't know specifically how many cattle farmers there were in 1951. They do know that based on historical data, there was 5.3 million farmers, with that included all of farming and cattle producers and everything under that gambit. But currently in 2025, current cattle producers, which is people who run cows in the United States, is 622,000. So that's how many cattle operations there are in the United States right now, which is down from 882,000 in 2020.
Okay. What was the population of the United States in, what'd you say, 1951?
1951, there was 150 million people.
Okay. Less than half what we have today.
We have 340 million.
Okay.
Estimated.
Okay.
Estimated.
And we have how many? So the number of head, let's call it 90 million head of cattle today, is basically what it was in 1951. Now this is within the United States of America.
Correct. That is the U.S. cattle herd inventory.
Okay. By the way, I asked Super Grok, and it came back with, I think it said 86 million head of cattle, and that it also threw in the United States. Now, this sounds like a crazy number to me. Okay. It says the United States is losing 10,000 ranchers a year.
I feel like that's pretty conservative, actually. If we've lost over 250,000 in the last 5 years.
It says losing 10,000 10,000 ranchers a year. 10,000? Is that possible?
It's absolutely possible. But again, mine figures are 882,000 in 2020. Now we're down to 622,000 in 2025.
Okay.
So your number shows 50,000. My number shows 250,000 over the 5 years. So that's
these are my numbers. I'm looking at my buddy Super Grok. Thank you, Super Grok. You are awesome. Okay, this creates all kinds of questions in my head. Number one, why are we losing ranchers at all if beef is as high as it is? It seems like, man, now's a pretty good time to be in the beef business. I mean,
right now is great, but it hasn't been great for a really long time.
So why are ranchers closing down now or selling their operation? Why are we losing ranchers at such an alarming rate right now with the beef? It seems like beef's a good place to be right now.
Great question. So the average cattle rancher farmer is 58 years old. So age is part of it. The other part of it is that the cost to continue doing business has gotten so high with the inflation of the Biden era. I'm not trying to be, bad Biden.
That is what it is. It's just a fact. You don't have to
That's
apologize for that. Right.
Yeah, it's just facts. But everything's gone up since 2020. And cattle prices only have gone up in the last really 12 months. And so we're starting to be able to make up for the losses of the last 3 years, but a lot of cattle producers just got out, partially because they couldn't continue to provide for their herd because of drought conditions. There's a myriad of reasons why cattle ranchers get out, but specifically, especially in Texas over the last 3 years, we've had horrible drought conditions that if you don't have grass and you don't have hay, you can't feed your herd. You have to get rid of them. There's no other choice.
Yeah, so that's interesting. A lot of people don't realize when a city slicker hears the term grass or something like that, it's just grass. Heck, I got to mow that stuff. I mean, what is, they don't understand. They see these big round bales of hay and they think that can't possibly be that expensive. It's just grass. If you have to start feeding your herd hay, it starts getting really expensive really fast. I don't think people that are not familiar with the industry and how it works, even if they've watched Yellowstone 5 times consecutively, they still don't understand the cost associated with getting, from a calf being born to getting it to market and selling it, and whatever that is. But if you have to start feeding your herd hay, holy cow.
Well, the hay industry is an interesting marketplace. A hay bale can swing anywhere from $50 to $150, depending on conditions, market, supply, demand, etc.
If there's a drought, those hay prices are going to be a whole lot higher. That's it. That's what people don't understand. I mean,
right.
You said between $50 and $150. I mean, you're paying $150 for a round bale of hay,
which will be decimated depending on your herd size in as little as 36 hours, and you have to go get another one. If you have 60 plus head, you're putting 2 or 3 bales out at a time.
And then transportation cost. That's the other thing. Right. That's the cost of the bale of hay, but where are you getting it from?
Well, for us specifically, when we buy hay, it's coming from almost 70 miles away.
Okay.
At so $4 a loaded mile.
$4 a mile.
Yeah.
Okay. You can do some quick math on that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Steaks start getting expensive at that point.
It does. And again, you don't see anything for 3 years from conception to table. Like
3
years?
You just
go to three for us specifically, my industry now, or for me, for my farm. Other people can do it a little bit quicker, but 2 years is the average.
Okay.
We take our steers to 2 years, and then when you add processing time in there and then packaging and actually getting it in the freezer or to your door, it's almost 3 years from the time they're conceived to the time they're a steak.
No kidding.
Because you got 9 to 10 months of conception or pregnancy, then they're born. Gestation, yes, sir.
They're born.
And then we take them to 2 years, and then we let ours hang for 21 to 28 days, depending on which steer we're processing, and then they've got to cut it up after that. So usually it's 4 to 6 weeks for us to get a steer back once we take it to the processor, and then we've got to inventory it, market it, sell it, and so 3 years is a good round number. Maybe 2 years, 10 months, 11 months, but really it's almost 3 years.
So,
which you get zero income from for that 3 year period. So you have to have all these operating costs for that 3 years.
You got money going out. You don't have obviously
anything coming in.
You don't make any money until you sell it. So there's no money coming in on it, but it's lots of money going out.
Right. Now that's on a direct to consumer basis. If you're a commercial cattle person or you're just selling calves at the market, when they wean at 6 months, you can take them down there and sell them the next day. And so you're looking at a 15-month life cycle before you get paid versus a 3 year life cycle, what we choose to do.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Are there ways to expedite the, in other words, I remember back when I was in ag, and so, we had things like Ralgrow, and I don't even know if that's even around anymore, or some of the different products that you could inject your cattle with to expedite, putting on weight on cattle and stuff like that and everything. Now that's a whole nother component to this. Are there ways to shortcut the process that industrial type ranching system operations, can they expedite that to shorten the cycle and to make more money? And what is that? There's got to be side effects to that.
Of course. So you can do hormone implants, which will allow them to put on weight faster. That'll increase your daily caloric intake. You can put them on a grain ration at a feedlot style, and where they're just eating product all day. And then you can absolutely shorten that life cycle. However, for our business model, we're grass-fed, grass-finish. That doesn't work for us because we don't want hormone implants. We don't want any of those extra things. We want a cow as naturally as possible from start to finish. And so there's no shortcutting that. It's just they got to take their time.
So, but the benefit to that, I think we're starting to learn more and more today about the benefits. First of all, people are coming on board with, some form of this carnivore type of nutritional plan. It seems to be very, very healthy. But lo and behold, we're now discovering that meat and tallow and these eggs and the yolk and these high quality fat sources from organically raised things like beef and pork and eggs and things like this. That stuff's all very, very healthy. And people that are eating primarily good sources of protein and organic fats, things like this, staying away from the seed oils and sugars, they're much healthier. I think is that also increasing the consumption of beef? So I know we've got fewer ranchers, we've got fewer head of cattle, but also is the demand for beef in the USA going up because of this trending? People are starting to learn that, whoa, we need to eat meat. We need tallow in our diets. We need things like this. Is that making an impact?
Yeah, it's a good observation. So statistically, if you look at it, it's pretty steady. I did read some sources that said, and now mind you, I take this with a grain of salt, so don't quote me on it, but their claim was that 12% of the U.S. population consumes almost 45% of our beef consumption, which, again, a grain of salt, but from what we've seen, it's pretty steady right now.
Interesting.
From a consumption perspective.
Okay. So the other thing that about this is, are more and more people moving towards grass-fed, grass-finished? By the way, what does that mean? Grass-fed, grass-finished. What's a ruminant? Why is the type of food that cattle, what they eat, why does that even matter?
Yeah, great question. So cows are unique in that they're a ruminant animal. Ruminant animals, they feed off the natural grasses of the land. And so when you start introducing foreign substances, I say substances, specifically grains that they're not in their typical diet. I'm not going to call it side effects, but those are not what they would traditionally eat in the wild. And so we want to make sure that our cattle are eating things that are traditionally in their diet. It's just as, we want them to be as close to what they're intended to be from a natural perspective as possible. And from, a grass-fed, grass-finish, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if cattle eat, if new food sources are introduced to cattle, okay, the way a digestive system of a cow works, they're ruminant, means they got 4 stomachs. It's very specific what they are designed to eat grass.
Yes.
That's the way that's the way they did digestion, all this. Grains versus grass. Grains are very different from grass. I know it's still a plant, but grains are very different from grass. Grains actually will make cattle sick. That's why they feed them in the feedlots the last few weeks or last couple months of their life cycle. Is that correct? Because if you try to raise cattle on grains, they get sick. That's why they have to pump them full of antibiotics once they start them on grain to keep them from getting sick. Yep. Cattle are not intended to eat grains. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but am I tracking correctly here?
You're tracking correctly.
Okay. However, it's cheaper cattle will get fat faster on grain. By the way, so do people. That's why the worst thing you can eat is cereal and oatmeal and all. It just makes you fat. We've been sold such a bill of goods. So the whole intention behind grain is you can get cattle fatter quicker, which increases the amount of marbling in the meat, which that raises the quality of the meat, correct?
It can. I wouldn't say in all circumstances it does, because it does convert to fat instead of, nutrition and mass and muscle, then yes, you're going to naturally see an increase in the marbling if the genetics are there to produce that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the type of cattle. Sure. Right, exactly. Yeah. A longhorn, that's why you don't see longhorns in slaughterhouses, because they don't have marbling. They're naturally a leaner, but a Black Angus,
yep,
or a Hereford, they are going to tend to have more marbling. But you add in that grain and you put them in a feedlot and all they're doing is just sitting there eating grain all day, they're going to fatten up pretty darn fast. They're going to gain that weight. But the fat is different in
it is
grain-fed cow versus a grass-fed, grass-finished. By the way, can you explain the difference between grass-fed and grass-finished, and what does that mean? Because you'll see beef out there in the supermarket and they'll say grass-fed, but then in small print somewhere else it'll say, but it's not grass-finished. What does this mean?
Honestly, they don't even have to have the small print if it's within the last 90 days. So,
are you
grass-fed? All ruminant, all cattle are grass-fed. If they're not receiving grass, they will die. They have to have grass in order to process what they're eating. And so all cattle are grass-fed. Now, in the last 90 days, with the way that we have marketed our beef, or the way it's regulated such, however you want to insert X, Y, and Z, as long as they have been grass-fed within 90 days before they are slaughtered, they can still be finished on grain and corn and other things, but still be classified as grass-finished.
Really?
Yes.
So if
you have to be very careful when it's grass-fed, grass-finished if it's in the supermarket and if it doesn't say, you really don't know, which is why it's so important to me to know where my food is coming from. And so I want to make sure that I know that the person I'm purchasing my beef from is doing X, Y, and Z, because that's, for me, what I want. As our society continues to wake up to all the harmful things that have been injected and distributed to us over the last 50, 60 years, and they start to realize how negative and how bad those things were for us, even though they were marketed as amazing, great, better than the originals, people are starting to be much more protective and I don't know what's the word I'm looking, possessive about what they put in their body.
Well, it makes a difference. It depends. Our health depends on it. And
Yeah.
I've told people, and I know this from personal experience, the worst place in the world you can find yourself is in a doctor's office or a hospital. Unless it's like an accident. I'm talking about for like disease, health issues, things like that. The worst place you can find yourself is in a doctor's office or a hospital. You know, at my age, I've known a lot of people, people that I've known, friends, whatever, that have passed away. I've seen over and over and over again where once something happens and they end up in the hospital, they start getting treatment for something, it just seems to cascade and it just seems to get worse very quickly. And next thing you know, the deterioration and they're dead. So people are starting to think more about, hey, is there a way to prevent these health issues?
Of course.
Is what we eat, does that have anything to do? Can I just eat anything I want and it not have any effect on it can't be bad for me. The government wouldn't allow grocery stores to sell this if it's dangerous to me, right? I mean, would the government allow General Mills or any other, whatever, Kellogg's, I'm not picking on anybody, would the government allow a company that produces food, if you want to call it that, and I'm using that term loosely, would they allow that to be sold in grocery stores if it's harmful? Is that possible?
Is that a rhetorical question, or you really want an answer?
I
can give you an answer.
I look at what people eat. I know there's convenience, and I don't want to come across as I'm picking on people. Look, life's tough. You got moms and dads working. And again, this all goes back to priorities, I think. A lot of people will say, well, what am I supposed to do about it? And I go, well, first of all, you got 2 brand new cars. You got, $2,000 phones. We have become so spoiled as a nation, and we think that we need all these things that we really don't need. I remember growing up, and it wasn't that long ago, but we had one TV, we had one phone. It was connected to the wall. And I know technology's changed. I know we had one car, and we weren't poor. But we were not poor by any. We were.
If you had a TV, you weren't poor.
Middle class. But we had one car. And my mom, we she would take my dad to work some days if we needed the car for something during the day, we just made it work. We never thought anything of it. My brother and I, we played outside. We never went hungry, but my parents, you lived on a budget and you prioritized things. And so today I just see a lot of people, they feel like if you don't have a 2-story, 3,500 square foot house with, 4 bathrooms and all that, you're not keeping up with the Joneses. And it's truly unbelievable. And I think the price that we pay for that is we just live a hurried life. We don't pay attention to things that we really need to be stopping and paying attention to. Food is a big one, and convenience, and going through the drive-through. I mean, Blake, when I was a kid, if you bought food, like, fast food was kind of fairly a new thing. I mean, it wasn't new when I was a kid. It was 20, 30 years old. I mean, the McDonald's was around, stuff like that, but that wasn't something you ate every day. That was a treat. Man, if we went out to eat to like a Luby's cafeteria after church on a Sunday, man, that was high cotton, brother. That wasn't something we did every day. We ate at home. We had prepared meals, and it wasn't that my mom was just this Kool-Aid mom and everybody. That's the way everybody was. That was our society. And today, man, what we feed our families, what we feed our kids, we go to Chick-fil-A now thinking, well, at least that's healthy. And I'm like, who who told you that? Where did you come up with this idea that Chick-fil-A is healthier than Burger King? Or I just think we really are paying a price today for not paying attention to things that are really important. And our food, we're in big trouble with our food. And I think people need to take stock and consider people like you that are producing high quality beef that's grass-fed, grass-finished, not pumped with all the junk. There is a difference between that type of meat and what you're getting in the grocery store. And at least you know where it's coming from. That's the other thing too. How do I know if I go into a grocery store and I buy a steak, or even worse, I buy some ground beef, where is that coming from?
Yeah, so steak specifically is going to be from a single sourced animal, okay? Because when you cut a steak off the primal, that came off of one cow. They're not going to. Now, I have seen videos. I can't quote on this, but I have seen videos where I've seen people piece together two steaks with some sort of special fluid and make a steak out of that. I've seen a video. Now, whether that was legit or not, I'm just speculating. I can't say.
Frankensteaks?
I'm just saying. Now, I can speak specifically on the ground beef portion. When you go to the supermarket and get a package of just, ground beef.
I'll tell you what really makes me nervous, Blake, the tubes of ground beef, you know what I'm talking about? They come in around like
those 3-5 pound tubes. Yeah.
Oh,
70-30.
I just go, God only knows. Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. So there were some studies done, and specifically they took DNA tests of a 1 pound ground beef patty, or not patty, just a package of ground beef. And there were over, I want to say 800 different DNA samples that came out of that. So that 1 pound of ground beef had over 800 different cows in it.
Stop. That sounds like Bonnie Blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't expecting that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry
that I even know who that is.
Let's hope nobody knows who it is.
So, but okay. Wait a second. All right, Blake. That's mind blowing.
It is.
So if I go to the grocery store and I see the package of ground meat. I mean, it's a package of ground meat. Obviously, surely the government will protect us. And what's the problem with having a pound of ground meat consisting of 800 different? How does that happen? How does that happen, Blake? Is that on purpose, or is it just that because that's the way meat packing plants? It's how the industrial beef industry works. How does that happen?
Great. So obviously you have to go back to what is a pound of ground beef? That's all the extras, really. That's the things that you're not getting out of your primals, out of your roasts, all the other parts of the cow that specifically that you might want. And so when you have all these extras that get ground up to make your ground beef, naturally you're going to have extras of all different sorts of animals that you've slaughtered. And so they just throw it all, they mix it up, and it comes out in 1 pound packages, and that's how they get it.
Okay. I'm really terrified to even imagine what our fast food, I don't want to mention any of the.
I can't tell you. I don't want to say specifically because I don't want to get a cease and desist or any kind of other lawsuit, but there's a very popular fast food chain that they did the similar
Is that the one that does the pink slurry?
I can neither confirm nor deny what type of fast food joint I'm speaking about, but they came back with over 1,000 different DNA samples in their burger patties.
Okay.
And they sell 5.5 million hamburgers per day. In the
billions and billions sold, right?
No, well, annually, yes. I can't say who it is.
I got you. I get it.
But that's just one example. I have no doubt that the rest of them, if this specific industry-leading fast food restaurant has these practices, I can't imagine that the other ones would be too terribly different just from a a automation perspective. If you're pumping out that many hamburgers a day, you have to make it efficient. And I
keep the
guess they
cost
found
down.
Right.
Let's face it. You got to keep. You're not going to be able to compete in that industry. And I know it's fast food, but you're not going to be able to compete. You got to keep your costs down. They can't afford to come to you and buy 5 cattle a day and make enough hamburger meat and keep the cost down, and quality gets put behind. Let's put it that way. It's all about taste.
Quality gets abandoned and substituted for convenience.
Right.
And when we started this journey 3 years ago, and I do call it a journey because it is not for the faint of heart. It is one of the hardest jobs I've ever done, and I've done some hard jobs. But when you start sitting down and single sourcing and organically building your meal plan for the day, I can't make any meal that is not put together from the grocery store in less than 30 minutes. You're going to spend 30 minutes to an hour on a quick meal using a holistic diet where you're using vegetables and maybe fruits or whole animals, chicken, pork, beef, whatever that is. And then you're doing that 2-3 times a day. That's a substantial amount of time, and people have absorbed so many items in their schedule, they don't have time to cook. That was the biggest eye-opening thing for me, is selling direct to consumer, is how many people don't cook anymore. Back to your point of your mom would sit down and fix us meals, and that's what I've been trying to do instead of purchasing out to eat. Plus, with inflation in the last 5 years, I mean, you have a family of 4 or 5, you go fast food, it's $40-$50 now. Gone are the days where you could buy a whole family a dinner for $20. You just can't do that anymore.
No. Oh my gosh, no. There's no way. So tell me, I know obviously the product that you produce, the beef that you produce, it's not going to be the cheaper chicken, to quote a line from Father of the Bride with Martin Short and Steve Martin. But your beef it's not out of line. I mean, would people be surprised if they buy in bulk? Let's say if they buy a quarter beef or a half beef. What are, on average, are they paying per pound for high quality, grass-fed, grass-finished, not pumped with a bunch of junk? They know where it's coming from. What is the average customer when they buy, let's say, a half a beef from you? What are they paying on average per pound for that?
Yeah, great question. So let me give you a couple prefaces first off. When you order a bulk share of beef, whether it's an eighth, quarter, half, whole, you're getting a percentage, whatever that percentage is, of that total carcass. You're not going to be in a situation where you're going to get all ribeyes back. I've actually had a customer say, "Hey, just give me all the ribeyes," and I'm like, "That's not, the cow is not just made up of ribeyes. You can't just make every part of the cow ribeye." And so, you're roughly getting a third of your primal cuts, which is going to be all your different steak styles, your ribeyes, your sirloins, your New York strips. That's roughly 30% of a carcass. Good. And then another 30% of that is going to be your other cuts, your roasts, just all those other random briskets. Those are going to be another third. And then the last third of that's going to be roughly ground beef. And so when you break down what you get from a carcass, keep that in mind, knowing that, I'm not going to get 400 pounds of steak. That's just not how it works.
Right.
You're limited to that. So our cows finish out anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 pounds live. And then so on the rail, they'll be anywhere from 800 to 1,000 pounds. When I say on the rail, that's an industry term. Basically, that's what their hanging weight is. So that,
if you've seen the movie Rocky, when Rocky was in the freezer, okay, that's on the rail.
Yes, sir. And so you can expect to get 60 to 65% from a live weight to on a rail weight. That's just the rest of it's discarded. It's your internals, your organs, all of your hooves, head, hide, all that is going to be roughly, of that 60%, all that's gone. So when you go from live weight to carcass, it's 60%. And then when you go from carcass, rail weight, to finished packaged beef, it's roughly another 65% of the total number. So say, for example, easy math, you had a 1,000-pound cow that you took in, had it slaughtered. From live to rail, now you're at 600 pounds. And from rail to freezer, you're 350 to 400 pounds.
Interesting. Yeah. How about organ meat?
So we do keep the organ meat, the heart, kidneys, liver, tallow, tongue. Yep. Cheek, we keep all that, and we will sell that. We do have a caveman blend where we'll put in the heart and the liver into it to give it more vitamins.
Okay. Excellent. That's good information.
Yeah.
How is that becoming more and more popular? Because I'm really starting to see a lot of people, the organ meat is, especially liver, things like this. Are you starting to see?
Liver's coming around because of the high iron content and the nutritional health benefits. What people were hesitant about in the beginning when this was introduced is that they thought they would taste the organs, specifically in the ground beef. From our customers' feedback, though, they said, I've had a couple customers, and again, this is subjective, but they say it tastes better than our ground beef.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So they can't tell that there's organs in it.
Right. Yeah. And I've had meat like that, ground meat in it, and I think it is tasty. I don't like just eating liver. I just don't like it. I never have. But
every Thursday was liver night at my house. I can't stand liver. But.
Yeah, oh my God, I don't even like the smell of it or anything. I remember as a kid, my mom would eat liver and onions.
Yep, every Thursday.
Oh, Lord of mercy, that was bad. And I couldn't eat it. And you call it a primal blend? Is that what you call?
We call it a caveman blend, but it's also called a primal blend.
Yep. Caveman blend. What is the percentage on that? How is that broken?
Oh, I was afraid you were going to ask me that.
I mean,
I'd be lying if I told you.
Okay, that's all right.
I'd be lying.
Maybe it's proprietary, so that's no big deal. But so I've had, there's companies obviously that produce stuff like that, and I've had that,
yep.
and I've always really enjoyed it. I also like the blend of. I don't like venison by itself, because it almost tastes a little like a liver. It's gamey. I just don't. But if I mix that with elk or beef or whatever, then it's really, really good. So now that's something else. Have you guys thought about doing things like deer processing, elk process, wild game processing, anything like that? Is that anything that you guys have thought about, or is that's just a whole nother, probably something that you're like, oh God, we don't need, we got plenty on our plate.
Yeah. With the current climate of exotic gaming in Texas, I would run far, far away from trying to source or provide any kind of venison to customers. And that is my position on that. It may not be my position. I know there's plenty of game ranches out there that say, hey, it's great, come out. And I welcome you to go out to them because they have taken care of all the things they need to take care of with the state to provide you that excellent service and that quality time. I'm not about to jump off into that deep end.
Interesting.
But I didn't answer your question about the blend. And so
yes,
roughly 80% ground beef, 12% liver, 8% heart.
Okay.
And then the other question I didn't get to was about how much we charge per pound, and on a bulk share, and that's a sliding scale. And so it depends on what my inputs are, because my inputs on every steer are different, unfortunately. If I had a steer that was born on the ranch, my input costs are much lower than if I had to go purchase that steer, especially right now with the current market price for cattle. There are guys that are buying cattle right now to feed out to go direct to consumer that I think they're just moving money from the right hand to the left hand. I don't see how they're going to make a penny.
Really?
Yes. Because I'll give you an example. I had a steer that I purchased, that I processed recently. I kept him in my expenses and then my processing. My cost, and I'm being very straightforward. I'm going to have some people in the comments go, "You're crazy to think that it cost you that much," but I've got the receipts of how much this steer cost me to feed out and process and wait on him. I'm at $5,000 just in my cost.
Holy cow!
Because I had to buy him. Now, if I didn't have to buy him, it's considerably less. But right now, steers are weanling steers, and a wean steer is a steer that's just come off its mom. And it's roughly between, I mean, they can range anywhere from 4 to 6, 700 pounds, but they want them to be in that 6 to 700 pound range. But they're selling anywhere from 350 to 450 a pound. And so you're now purchasing a weanling steer that's 6 months old for $2,500. And then you have to turn around and feed it for the next 12 to 18 months. And then you have to take it to slaughter. And I don't know, I know slaughter prices vary. My processor right now, slaughter price is $1.25 going up to $1.40 because of their costs have increased. So they're just putting the cost down to me now so that they can continue to maintain whatever they have to do to stay in business.
Sure.
So if you can get a processor that's cheaper than that, that's awesome. I mean, I'm just telling you about my specific circumstance for me and what I'm paying. We have a food process, not a food processing. We have a wholesale license with the state of Texas for, health and human services so that we're able to actually sell our beef the way that we do. There are a lot of beef producers that don't want to have to go through the licensing process. And so they'll sell you the carcass and then you go pay the processor. But we wanted a quality customer service perspective that gives you a seamless experience. So we absorb that and we take care of that. So our pricing reflects that because we actually do the processing and pay for the processing before we sell it.
Okay, so I know you have a breeding program.
We do.
Are you just getting more orders than what you can keep up with right now for your from your breeding program?
Great question. It really depends. So I have orders out for people who are wanting halves, quarters, and wholes that go 6 to 12 months out. From a box perspective, because we sell individual cuts and then custom boxes and bundles that people can order. That is just available on our website anytime. And so for customers who are hesitant to, well, I don't want to spend, let's say for example today, which is October 19th, if I were to sell you a half of a share of a beef cow or a steer, we would charge roughly $10 to $12 per pound for that half. Now you'll get a minimum of 200 pounds at that price. And then it can go up if you want more than that, but we guarantee at least 200 pounds. If we get more from the carcass, depending on the size of the carcass, then we can, talk to you about how much you're willing to spend. Because some people don't want more than 200 pounds of beef on a half. And so, we have to be flexible on that. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, that makes perfect sense.
The other thing that we've noticed in doing this is that people don't have freezers.
Right.
Like they have the freezer that came with their refrigerator, and that's it. And the idea that they would go buy another freezer, a deep freeze, to store excess or have on-hand inventory seems to be very foreign to them. Now, that's just our experience. I'm not speaking for everyone in the United States, but they seem to not understand that they're able to go purchase additional space. They don't want to purchase additional space. And that to me, I don't understand. Because me being the protective father I am, I want to ensure that I have resources on hand for my family in the event that there's a situation. Last year, we went through a derecho in May. We went through a hurricane in July, both of which we were out of power for 8 to 10 days on both. So over our summer period, we were without power for 20 days. We have generators, we have freezers, so I have to make sure that we maintain, because I have in stock beef ready to go. I have to make sure that stays sub-zero. But a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what, they just don't have that mindset of survival, I would say, for lack of a better term. They're not forward thinking, I guess is the best way I can say that. And that's, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who will disagree. No, we don't. But by and large, our experience with our time in the beef business is that our customers are very inventory in hand of what's in the grocery store, and that's concerning because we know the grocery store inventory will be gone in 3 days or less.
Yeah, that's a great point. And again, we started out this conversation, and why we're even here is because you and I were speaking several weeks ago, and you had mentioned the crisis within the beef industry, and I later learned to find out that it's not just beef, but we're also a lot of people are wondering why Trump is not pressuring Mexico harder on the cartel issue. He's down there taking out the drug dealers and the boats down in Venezuela and stuff like that, which great, fantastic. But people are curious why he's not pushing Mexico harder on some of these issues, especially pertaining to the cartels. And from what I can understand and what I've heard is, if we are so dependent on food imported from Mexico that if Mexico turned the spigot off tomorrow, America could not feed its citizens. And I was just looking at the numbers and I'm like, holy mother of pearl. It seems to be that possibly is a fact. Do you know anything about that? What is our reliance on Mexico as far as not just beef? I know they do import some beef, not just beef, but produce.
So you want me to specifically speak about produce or about our
well,
beef?
I don't know what you might know about produce, but I know you're more in tune with the beef. But what have you heard? And I'm not holding you.
Sure. So I don't feel comfortable speaking about produce because I don't do produce. Right. You'd be out there and like I get fact checked so fast and it would be so wrong. I don't want to really, embarrass us both like that. What I will say is from an import perspective of beef. So there are two imports of beef that we have. We have live cattle imports, and then we have beef imports, which is carcass. So they were slaughtered somewhere else, and then they were imported into the United States. Live cattle is where they actually walk across the border alive into the United States. Okay, so we're clear on that. Our two biggest importers of live cattle and beef imports both are obviously Canada and Mexico because they're our neighbors.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you that because of the New World Screwworm, which if people are not familiar with the New World Screwworm, it's been around for a very long time.
What is that again?
You broke up. I'm sorry, the New World Screwworm.
Oh, yeah, the New World Screwworm. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
For those people who aren't familiar with this is a larva that is flesh-eating in nature. It was very destructive back in the 60s in the United States. We were able to, I'm not going to say the word eradicate, but remove it from the United States. It does pop up in here and there over the last 60 years if you go look at the history of it. But it became prevalent again in Mexico this year, specifically, and last year at the end of the year. And specifically, our imports of live cattle from Mexico have been off and on all year as a result because our Secretary Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, does not feel, and neither does the Trump administration, they do not feel that the appropriate attention is being made to eradicate this situation on the Mexican side. Specifically, we started out roughly, I believe it was 900 miles away when this was first discovered at the beginning of the year. We are now 70 miles away from the southern border with this situation. And so they're taking many of the appropriate steps that need to be taken. Now, from a scale perspective, I can't comment on that. I don't know specifically how many flies that they're producing, sterile flies that then mate with the female flies, and don't have any kind of life cycle after that, which is great because there's no babies being born, larvae, et cetera, et cetera. And so, but to your question about our imports from Mexico, yeah, we import a lot of beef from Mexico. Mexico, Brazil, and Canada. Those make up roughly, over half of our beef import in the United States.
How about China? Are we getting a bunch of meat from China, which would even, or is that just, that's not logistically, they can't compete with our border, Mexico and Canada?
China does not ever seem to pop up on my radar. The 5 main that pop up on my radar are Brazil, Canada, Mexico, and Australia. And I said 5. There's another one.
Canada,
probably Argentina. Yeah,
Argentina.
So those are our top 5. Now we export the majority of our beef to Japan. We will send beef to China, but I don't believe we receive beef.
Why are we sending beef if we're having to import beef?
It's a great question.
Yeah, what I don't I mean, is it simply because
the short? I can answer it. The short answer of it is our beef, and contrary, other countries will tell us, it's not that great, but we have the best beef in the world. The United States beef is the best beef in the world. We have the fattest stock of cattle in the world, and so as a result of that, to get the ratio of fat to beef flavor that everyone wants, we will export our fat cows to other countries so that they can offset their lean cows in their beef industries. Which similarly, the reason why we import beef is because we have such fat cows. We want those lean cows from these other countries to offset ours so that there's a more standardized beef ratio. Does that make sense?
That goes back to our ground beef deal where we have all these different, have 800 different cows and a pound of ground beef because
they're trying to offset. They're trying to get this ratio just right.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. So do you know what percentage, how many, what does it look like if Mexico decided, if we really made Mexico mad and they said, that's it, no beef for you? What does that look like? Is that are McDonald's going to start closing down, or does the sky start falling? What does that look like in America?
Yeah, I don't have that specific number. I can get it for you. I know that from a total export-import, 38% of our total supply is sourced from imported beef. And we export roughly 3 billion pounds annually.
So you said 38% of our meat is imported?
Yes.
38%?
Yes.
Well, that's a pretty big number. And right now, the number of cattle that we have now, is that actually head of cow, or are we talking about cow calf pairs? Are we talking about breeding pairs? Even though there's no breeding pairs, because
everything.
That's what. That's everything. So
everything.
When you say, let's just call it 90 million head of cattle.
Yep.
That's everything. So, like, for instance, we
don't. If you want a breakdown, I can give you a breakdown.
We don't slaughter bulls for meat. We don't.
Yeah, we do.
We do. Most of the meat is it steers? And what is a steer?
Yeah, so a steer is just a castrated bull. It is a bull who has removed his manhood, so to speak.
Gotcha.
And the
they usually do that at what time in the life cycle of a baby bull calf is born? At what point do we steer that?
It really depends on the producer. I've steered them on the day they're born. I've waited till they're 6 months old. I have, yes. If I know I'm not going to keep them as a bull because I don't like their pedigree, or they had a difficult time with their birth, or any number of reasons, I will go ahead and I can steer them that day if I choose to.
No kidding.
Okay. I have had experiences where that has bit me though, and so typically I'll wait a couple days to make sure that everything drops down, because sometimes they'll slip back up when you're trying to castrate. And so just to prevent an issue later on in a week or two with infection, I'll wait.
Okay.
But yeah, and again, it's going to be, producer specific as to when and where they do it. I would tell you that it's not advisable to do it after they're 12 months old, though. At that point, they have a difficult time with recovery.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that the testosterone, the male hormone, has already done its deal on the meat and everything else. One of the reasons to castrate bulls early on is because the meat's tenderer. The
testosterone makes the meat tougher. Yes.
Tougher, right? Exactly. So now, do you cut them or do you band them?
Typically we band. If they get towards their more past 6 months, then we'll typically cut at that point.
So you cut if it's longer than 6 months, you'll cut them off instead of it. Folks, banding it's basically a heavy duty rubber band. You put it on, looks like a vice grip type of thing. It opens it up, you slip it up over, you let it go, and it cuts off the circulation, and they just drop off a few weeks later. And it seems to be, that's actually, it sounds horrible. They don't seem
to be.
It
sounds horrible. Girls don't seem to care as much.
They don't seem to really, that doesn't even, no. And it's pretty
my wife enjoys it.
Does she look at you side-eyed when she goes, watch this?
Sometimes I get that look. I'm always hesitant when the bander brings that, because you have the rubber band like you talked about, but then you've got the pliers that open the band up to fit over, and that's when I tend to, I'm like, where are you going with that?
Yeah. But that
we don't have any calves right now. We're trying to band. What are you doing with that?
Oh, so okay. Well, there you go. It's banding season. So when you're talking about 90 million head of cattle, what percentage are steers? What percentage of those?
So 28.7 million in 2025 are beef cows. So those are cows, not, those aren't steers. And then, roughly 9.5 million of those are milk cows. And so,
oh, really?
Yeah. And then the calves make up about a third of those. And so all cattle on feed for 2025 is roughly 13 million of that 94 million number, excuse me.
Okay.
And so you could formulate that could be steers, but sometimes if you have a heifer who is not a good candidate for replacement heifer, meaning that her pelvis may be too small, she may be too small, or there's any number of different reasons why you wouldn't necessarily keep her back. They can also be fed out, similar to steers.
Gotcha. So that ends up in there too. And then you said, and that it makes sense, a percentage dairy cattle. I guess once they pass their milk production, they go ahead and Elsie goes.
They don't let anything go to waste.
Yeah. It's going to be some ground beef there anyway, at least. Because dairy cattle are not they don't have the most meat on them. They almost look pretty bony, actually.
And so what we're seeing in the industry over the last few years is we're seeing a very heavy push to put Black Angus on dairy cattle.
Really?
To get an F1 to give them some mass on the dairy side. And they're selling those as beef.
No kidding.
And they're calling it Black Angus beef, my understanding.
No kid. So interesting. All this stuff to me is, and it's very important, because if anything interrupts, or if the U.S. was to be hit with something like the screw worm, or there's lots of disease, there's lots of different parasites, there's lots of different things that could happen. And again, it's not healthy to run around and being worried about, oh my God, Mark talked to that Blake guy and he scared me to death. He said we're all going to die from starvation because the cattle are, you can't live like that. It's just first of all, it's not smart, and it's sure not healthy.
We're
It's
not
not going
called
to
to
help
live
your
in
family.
fear. We're called
just,
not to live in fear.
No, you really can't. Now, with that being said, I think it's just as stupid and it's just as unwise and irresponsible to not pay attention to what's going on in the world and to do your best to sort of make preparations, to do things, to plan ahead a little bit so that you aren't blindsided should a bad scenario occur. So with that being said, what's the best way? You mentioned freezers before. I think it's a great idea to have a deep freezer, have a deep, and to have some meat stocked up and stuff like that. Yes, it's not cheap, but I would say that it's probably cheaper to maybe get with a neighbor or a family member and say, "Hey, let's call Blake and let's get a half a beef." And how do we do that?
People go in with other people all the time. I mean,
so that's pretty common, right?
Every day.
I mean, and if you're buying meat in bulk, and this is high quality meat, this is not, when people buy from you, do they get a picture of the cow before, or the steer before?
I can provide that if they really want it. I can tell you their name because they're all named. I don't use numbers. And specifically, I use names just because I'm like, why not? It doesn't affect my attachment to them. Other people might be offended by that. It doesn't bother me, though. So to each their own. But yeah, if they'd like a picture of their steer, I'm happy to provide that to them. I can send them videos of them on the ranch because, I mean, whatever. Yes,
kind of growing up and then waving at them as they're heading into the slaughterhouse. And
we do. We're like, hey, you've been great. Thanks so much. We're really going to enjoy you on the other side. I mean, we do. We video them getting off the trailer. I mean, because we have social media accounts. So we post this stuff. We have a YouTube channel. Like, you can go watch us work the cows. You can watch us when we're birthing, during calving season, ranch chores. Like, we do it. We put it all out there. I'm not trying to be a social media star, but I want you to know, hey, this is a real thing.
Right.
I want you to know who we are and what we stand for in our value system. And, oh, look what they're doing this week. Oh, that's great. Okay. I mean, it's tedious. I mean, you understand better than anybody how hard it is to do social media, especially when you're a small timer.
No, it is hard. And real quick, would you tell people what platforms you're on and how do they find you? Let's please cover that right now. Take your time doing this. I want people to be able to find you. What
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We're on all the majors. On YouTube and Facebook, we're at Texcalibur Ranch. TEXCAL at Texcalibur Ranch.
Texcalibur Ranch. Right now, is that all one word, or is that?
It's all one word. Yes, sir. TEXCALIBERRANCH. And then on Instagram and TikTok, we're Texcalibur Ranch.
Texcalibur Ranch.
And or dot. I mean, depending on your generation.
Are those platforms a pretty good place where if they have a question or something like that, they can drop you a message or whatever, and within some period of time, you'll get back with them? Obviously, you're busy. You're not on your social media every day, every hour of every day, whatever. But I'm sure it's something you monitor, and eventually, if they leave you a message, whatever, you try to get back to those questions.
So coming from a technology background, we do have all the technological aspects that do make us somewhat efficient. I don't want to say we're cutting edge efficiencies because we try not to utilize AI as much as other organizations. But yeah, all of our social media platforms are all plugged into a messaging system for us. So we, when you send a message, it dumps to us and sends us a notification. It may take us a few minutes to get back to you because we might be birthing a calf. We are in calving season right now, or we might be banding a calf or, working cows in the chute. I mean, we are a working cattle ranch. So we're not sitting in an office all day just waiting for orders or, customers to message us. So if we don't get back to you right away, please be patient with us because, we are ranchers first.
So let me ask you another question. Let's say you're parents and you've got a young man that's, he's maybe a teenager, 13, 14, 15 years old. And mom and dad are good, responsible parents. And they're like, you know what? Hey, he needs to Do you have any sort of a program where you got young people maybe coming out and helping with the ranching operation out there, maybe mucking out stalls or there's always need for help around the ranch somewhere. And I know you got kids yourself, but if somebody wants to send their kid out for a few days a week during the summer, or maybe they're homeschooled and they want them to go do something a couple days a week and apprentice a little bit, see what it's like to work on a farm. You got some work for some young people if they're willing to work and have a great attitude and want to learn a little bit about ranching.
That's a great question. You're not the first person, and I'm sure you won't be the last. It's something that we're trying to figure out how to make it work. Obviously, there's some liability issues that arise from that we have to mitigate and work through. But I'm not opposed to it. Now, does that mean you're going to message me today and then I'm going to have you out tomorrow? Absolutely not. Because I've got to work through those legal hurdles to make sure that I'm protecting myself and my family, obviously.
Right.
I'd love to think that everyone in the world is perfect and that nobody has any issues and that nobody would ever begrudge anyone for anything that may happen accidentally somewhere else. But that's
a lot of things can happen on a ranch.
That's
lots of equipment. You got big wild animals or domestic animals.
We got 5-ton tractors. It is not a petting zoo by any means. These are wild animals. They need to be treated as such. This is not Yellowstone where you think you can walk up to the bison, take a picture because they're pets. That's not what this is.
Right.
But at some point, I would love to be able to have a setup where we can invite like-minded people who want to experience or help produce and be part of the ecosystem of ranching. Yes.
Well, I just think it's a great place for kids, and I'm not talking about paying these kids. I think kids coming out 1 or 2, maybe 3 days a week, whatever. If this was something, but they would look at it as a privilege to be able to come out, learn about, be around a ranch environment, learn about hard work, the animal husbandry business, and just be able to be exposed to that just as a learning so that they can take that and prepare for when they're going to have a family and they'll be able to raise cattle or chickens or rabbits or I just think it's a great opportunity for young people to learning experience, growing experience, character building experience. There's so many things here. And I'm not talking about we're not talking about child exploitation here either. So people just relax. I'm talking about the opportunity, a golden opportunity for young people to go somewhere on a semi-regular basis, get dirty, work hard, and be able to experience and to appreciate taking your time, putting it into something that has a generational impact. If we started doing that with more of our young people, I just think the world would be a better place. Get your kids off the dadgum computers, get them off the laptops, the computers, the phones, get them out breathing fresh air, putting some calluses on their hands, getting banged up a little bit, and learn about a hard day's work and learn about what it takes when they eat a meal. What went into this? There's a huge disconnect today. People are eating and they have absolutely zero concept of what they're eating right there, how that happened. They have no clue. And I think this is a huge problem today in our country. I think it's an enormous problem in our country today. And so anyway, I didn't mean to put you on the spot on that, but I just think that, their parents, that as they wake up, they're homeschooling their kids now, they're taking responsibility for raising their kids. Man, look for opportunities like this where, as long as your kid's not a brat and your kid's not an idiot and they're not a booger eater, but they've got some smarts about them and want to become a better human being and are looking for opportunities. They're not necessarily just looking for a paycheck, but they're actually wanting to be a better human being. Man, that's what, kind of take a chapter from the Amish, hat tip to the Amish. But do you have a rip wheeler type of employee or hand out there at your operation, Blake? Or is there a train station? No, so you're Rip.
It's me.
Oh,
Yes,
pardon me. I'm sorry.
I'm the guy.
You shaved your beard, and
I did. I shaved for this podcast.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a train station anywhere adjacent.
I can't really talk about those things, especially on a podcast, Mark. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to do.
Limitations are they're tough, aren't they? So you're Rip. Okay, hey, listen. So, folks, you need to get some beef from Blake here, and that way you meet Rip, and I'm sure he's got all kinds of stories that he cannot share. But that would be a lot of fun. But in all seriousness, though, I hope that this has been something where it's been informative. It's not been intended to scare people or anything like that. But I think we need to be aware that things are the world is dynamic. There's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. I just think it'd be smart on I think families need to think a little bit and just not run around being paranoid, but make plans to protect your family a little bit. I think, reach out to Blake, get you, a neighbor or a family member or something. You guys get you half a beef, get you guys one of you get a deep freeze and kind of plan ahead a little bit, because you never know what the future brings. You never know what tomorrow brings, and peace of mind is being prepared. I truly believe that. And Blake, you've done some, answered a lot of questions here. I know that a lot of people have learned about how this all works, how food gets to their table. I know people would be really smart to go to your social media. You're posting wonderful videos all the time. I know during calving season and just the different aspects each year of what you do, raising these wonderful beasts that provide us amazing food. Man, it's got to just, do your kids enjoy it? I mean, obviously, and every kid's different. You're going to have some kids like, some kids don't, but I mean, do your kids enjoy this? Do they participate? Do you have some that like this, others that it's dad's thing? I mean, what are you finding as far as a family goes? How do your different kids kind of interact or respond to this day-to-day operation?
Yeah, so when we first started, they were like, how much work is really involved in this? Because again, we've been working with cattle since 2015, and we go, because we have cousins that run a rather large operation compared to the majority. The average median cattle rancher has 48 head, and we were fortunate that we have family members, relatives who run 600-700 head operation. And so going out there and helping them and getting to experience the large operation versus the small operation and in between. Obviously 700 head requires a whole lot more work than 50 head, but they're still the same processes. It's just the quantity of those. And so we wanted a way for our kids to have a vested interest in that. And so when we purchased our herd and started, we gave them each a heifer to be able to do what they wanted with it, and with the intention that they could grow out their own herd and have their own resources for when they get older. And so when we started out, they started out at the same time. So they each got a heifer, and, our daughter is the oldest, and her heifer was already on the ground when we purchased the herd. And so she was able to get her first experience of having a calf this past year and making decisions about what she wanted to do with that calf. It was a bull calf. And so she had to decide, did she want to keep it a bull? Did she want to steer it? Did she want to process it, or, take it all the way to processing to sell it as beef? Or if she wanted to quick cash win at wean to take it to the auction. So she got to experience all those real life decisions at her age. She's 16. And so she was able to make all those decisions and decide how she wanted to move forward with her herd, and then to rebreed her heifer, who's now a cow, and decide what genetics she wanted in the next calf that she has. And so she's getting to make all those decisions in real time. For our boys, we have two boys, 10 and 12. And so for them, we're a little bit more hands-on, obviously, just because they're younger. But they both had calves this past week, and their heifers were not born when we purchased the ranch. So we had to wait till we had heifers to gift them the heifers. And now they have their own herd. And so they both ended up with bull calves. And so, yes, they're very vested. Now that they have skin in the game, it really matters to them. And that's the reason why we did that, is because we wanted them to have that vested interest and not just go, Mom and Dad make me do this, I don't want to do this. And so, with having two new calves on the ground, they have to decide what they want to do with those. Do they want to put them in the beef program? Do they want to sell them at auction? Do they want to steer them? Do they want to try to keep them as bulls? They have to go through all the same decisions my daughter had to do earlier this year. Obviously, we will, talk through those processes with them. But ultimately, my daughter decided she was going to steer her bull calf earlier this year, and then she sold it at auction. And because that's her heifer, we decided, all right, well, this is yours, and here's your check. So she made $1,800 roughly selling that steer at auction back in April or May, I believe it was, when she did it. And so, she got to see the reward of the input and the time she put into her heifer and the work required. She got paid. I didn't take that money from her. That was her money. She earned it. And then the same thing with my boys. Depending on what they decide, they'll get that money because that's their cow and their responsibility. Now, I will tell you that when we rebreed, if she decides to do AI and those, my daughter, she had to pay for the expenses that were associated with AIing her heifer back to, getting these are all real world things that as a business owner, you have to be able to accommodate and prepare for. And so she's getting that experience now at 16. And so I want her to be able to have that business acumen and make those educated decisions when she's an adult, depending on what she decides to do with her life. Right.
No, that's fantastic. I love hearing things like that. Obviously, you've homeschooled your kids. You didn't want the government indoctrinating them. Hat tip to you. And more parents are learning that it's their responsibility to raise and educate their children. And we're never intended to turn them over to the state. And again, that's why I just say this is a great opportunity for parents to expose their kids to stuff like this, because I think that's a massive blind spot in our country today, is that we have no idea where our food comes from. We don't pay attention. That's why when there is a blip on the radar screen that we should be paying attention to, the vast majority of the adults in this country are oblivious to the the lurking potential danger over there of, hey, this could kind of go sideways pretty quick if, a couple of things go over here or go over there. Next thing you know, you walk into the grocery store and it's like, well, where's the food? Which that would be a bad day. That would suck. So, man, I think it's great what you're doing. And I'm so grateful that we got to do this. And I want to do it again because I think it's a very important topic. And I think there's, just like homeschooling, I think there's a growing number of people out there that are paying attention to things like this. People are getting off their phones and, getting off the tablets and learning to pay a little more attention. And that's something else that I think you guys would probably, you could maybe do some classes on homesteading and what it takes. Maybe they're not interested in doing a full blown, ranching operation, but how to raise some, for the family, and how do we raise cattle? What's the best way to do it? What are just some of the ins and outs and stuff like that. So maybe one day we can do a show and just talk about that. Sure. And because I think people are, homesteading is becoming a real thing. Thank God. I think that's amazing. And I wish more and more people would do that. Maybe they are. So there's lots to talk about when it comes to stuff like this. And but again, man, thank you so much for taking your time out to do this. It was so great to get to do this with you. Something I've been looking forward to. You brought some great information, some good things to think about, and I appreciate you sharing your information about your family and your farm, and hopefully we'll be able to send some folks your way that will become customers, and you can sell some beef too, and I would love to hear from people and let me know what y'all think. And can they is there I imagine once they purchase meat from you, things like this, they can do some Google reviews for you and stuff like that. I don't really know how they, so, you guys do that. So again, Blake, how can people reach you? It's the Texcalibur Ranch.com. And that's the best way to get a hold of it. Texcalibur Ranch. And you can see how to spell it. It's right behind Blake there. Texcalibur Ranch.com.
Is that easy?
That's that easy. And I know,
or you can email us at sales@texcaliburranch.com. We have an email address too.
Sales. That's the email address. Sales@texcaliburranch.com. And it's Blake Dollins. Dollins. Blake Dollins. And look him up on social media. Follow him on social media. Give him some feedback. Let him know, that you appreciate him coming on and sharing with us, and because I really do appreciate this. But Blake,
Mark, if you've got people who aren't local, find somebody who is. You don't have to buy from us. Please, just don't keep feeding into the system. Go find a local rancher or producer and go buy from them. These are real people. These are not corporations. And you will make all the difference in the world to them on an individual basis just by buying it from them instead of going through the system.
That's a great point.
They need that encouragement, because
I agree.
We're losing to your AI is pulling 10,000 ranchers a year. I say we're losing 50,000+ a year.
You really think it's that many? I mean,
based on my research, it comes out to 50,000 a year from 2020 to 2025.
Christmas, man. Yeah, that's unsustainable. And we as Americans, we just need to put America first. I know it's really easy to vote for president, and believe me, God bless President Trump. God bless what he's doing. He's doing a lot of stuff right. I'm very grateful for all that. But at the end of the day, he can't do everything. We as the citizenry have to take responsibility, and we all have to work on becoming better and doing better things, making better decisions based on what's best for our country, what's best for our families. And that's a great point, Blake. I think we would be better off if we distance ourselves a little bit from the industrial food production, i.e. the supermarket, and start taking responsibility for our families. Get connected with your local rancher. Blake shared great information on here. Difference between grass-fed, grass-finished, all these different things. You've got a bunch of information that you can work with. You can now ask the right questions. You can look for the right things. And man, oh man, folks, you can really make some really good decisions here and protect your family's health and well-being. And I think also, it's a positive financially as well, because when you buy in larger amounts like this in bulk, you're going to get a much better price. So again, Blake, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again. We'll do some more stuff, and maybe we need to come out and bring the cameras and do some broadcasting from the ranch itself. And maybe we can come out when you're steering calves, and we can show people what this banding process actually looks like. And we'll have all the guys cringing.
Let's all send Mark a message with how much we want to see banding. I'm pretty sure the male side of your audience is not really in favor of that. Your female audience might really want.
Yeah, the female audience, they might be laughing, and yeah, they'll get a real kick out of that. Yeah, the guys might maybe not so much. Like I said, it's pretty cringy. It's a little bit ouch. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it. Any parting words, Blake?
No, Mark, thank you so much for the time. I've enjoyed being on here and getting to spread more awareness about where our food comes from, and I just hope that everyone will take that and run with it and make educated decisions. Not just decisions, but educated decisions on where their food comes from. That's all I'm trying to do, is bring awareness to pay attention to what you're eating and what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. It's so important. And I think people are starting to wake up, so we just got to keep spreading the message. So thank you so much, brother.